Hello and welcome to another House of Wisdom video, and today we're going to be looking at the Gossamergear LT4 Trekking Pole. And here are some Gossamer LT4 Trekking Poles. I hiked a couple years ago the entire Appalachian Trail with my family, and these were the poles that I used, and they went the whole way. The Appalachian Trail, as some of you might know, is about 2,189 miles, and then I've probably on these Gossamergear poles put over 3,000 miles. I've owned them for about 3 years, and I've done other hiking, although I haven't done another through hike with them. But as you can tell, they're well worn. You see a lot of scratches on them, but wow, for carbon fiber poles, they've really held up well. Any poles have maintenance issues, and so we're going to talk about how to maintain your Gossamergear poles and what common maintenance issues you might run into. One of the things you'll need to do is change the tips. Whenever I was on my through hike, I changed the tips about every 700 or 800 miles. They have this hardened tip here, and you have to take the entire thing out. So we're going to talk about how to change your tips whenever it comes time for that. I have some poles here that I've already taken the tips off of, and so we're going to put new tips on those. We're going to talk about whenever your internal locks don't catch, what do you do whenever they just spin and they won't catch anymore? And we're going to talk about whenever these fail or fall off. For example, this is one of the poles and one of the internal locks fell out of it. How do we replace that? Also, you have this soft rubber, and with time it'll harden and you'll need to replace this whole unit. And how do you replace that whole unit? The other thing we're talking about is how to replace handles. These handles are well worn. The cork fell out of this one, and then I'm going to be replacing this handle too. Initially I got these camera mounts, and actually didn't work out very well for me, so I'm going to replace that too. Gossamergear was kind enough, they sent me these out, and I could have just taken the end cork and replaced it here, but since these do have 3,000 miles on them, but after 3,000 miles, really, they discolored a little bit because, hey, they were in the elements and the sun and the rain and my sweat and dirt and muck, and they gave me these nice new ones, so I'm just going to put nice new ones on and make it as good as new. And so that's going to be the format of our talk today. We're going to talk about the LT4 poles, changing tips, maintenance issues like how to change the internal locks out, what do you do with them when they don't catch well, and then changing out the handles. First of all, in talking about the Gossamergear poles, the cost of them, each one costs about $95.50, so it's around $91 for a set of them, and they weigh 4.1 ounces, which is really light. They now make an LT5 pole. This is the LT4. The LT5 pole, instead of having 2 sections, has 3 sections and is a little heavier. It's 4.6 ounces, but it is more compact because instead of just folding it half its length, you can fold it 1/3 of its length. And then they have the fixed pole, which is the LT3, and it is the ultralight of ultralight. It is 2.7 ounces. Remember, this is 4.1 ounces. So those of you who don't necessarily like to shorten your pole, you can use the LT3 poles and save yourself some weight. The LT4 is adjustable from 90 centimeters to 135 centimeters, and we're going to start in with some of the maintenance. Okay, we're back again, and we're going to talk about, first of all, changing the tips. And here is a pole with a tip on it, and I've already taken some of the tips off of the ones I was wanting to change, but I'm going to show you the technique I use, and there are different techniques to be used. Whenever I was in the trail, I went into a trail supply store, and the person there put the tip in really steaming hot water, boiling water, and let it soak there for a while. And then they got a knife and just shaved the tip off because the rubber was soft and they shaved it off. That's one way to do it. I do it an easier way. First of all, I get a little towel like this, and I use a towel so that I don't scratch the delicate carbon poles. And then the next thing I do is I get my monster monkey wrench, right? And you put that on there right there at the end. And basically what you do is you go whack, whack, whack. and you whack it hard enough and this tip will go flying off, trust me. You just need this big monster and you can whack off the tip. I have some that are already undone, and so we're going to go ahead and work on putting those on. So basically all you need is the new tip and then some super glue. And I have some super glue. You get 2 tubes of this for $1 at the dollar store. I've already taken some sandpaper, and you can get some fine sandpaper and take some of the old super glue off like that. And once you get it finished, then we're going to put on the new tip here. So let's open the super glue here. First of all, I'm going to see whenever I put the tip on about how far does it go up. And so I have an idea there. Yeah. And so that's basically where I want to put the super glue. As it tapers, you need less glue. So I'm just going to put it on that area there. And we're going to see how it works. And I'm making a big mess here. I probably should put something under that to catch it, right? Okay, we got it all on there. Good. We put this on there. And that should be good. Got some super glue on my tabletop here. Okay, really get that on there well. Okay, that should stick on there well. Okay, that's one. I'm going to get the next one here. Okay, we're ready to do it on the second pole, and we're going to see about how far it goes on there. Okay, about like that. We're going to get our super glue. We're going to glue it up nicely. This time I'm putting a paper towel underneath, which I should have done the first time. And lube it all up with super glue. And then put a little bit on the inside here. And then we're going to adhere it. And that should work nicely. And we've replaced the tips on the carbon fiber LT4 poles. The next maintenance thing we're going to address with the LT4 poles is whenever you put the end into the handle end and they don't grip. For example, I'm going to put this end here and then I'm going to rotate it, and because it's totally loose, it's not gripping, and so you have to kind of baby these poles. And so what you do is you crank down on it. I'm going to crank down on it too much and show you what not to do. So this is how it is. As you see, as you tighten it, it expands the rubber part. And then this is so wide that it won't even fit in there. So it's sort of a papa bear, baby bear, mama bear. You can't have it totally undone, and you can't get it too tight, but just enough to where it fits in there firmly so that the sidewalls of the upper pole will grip that, and that's what causes it to be able to expand, and then it'll lock. So we're going to do it just a little bit and see if we can get it just right to where it'll be locking at the right place at the right time. And I can jam this in there. I need to undo it a little bit, so I can do that. I'll undo it. There we go. We got it in there now. And now, if I can do it, see if it grips. Still not gripping. Well, I'm going to get it a little bit chubbier, just a little bit half turn there. And this is one of the downsides of this type of pole, is that it's dependent on gravity. And there we go. Now it's gripping nicely. So there you go. That's how to do it. You got to get it just right so that it'll grip nicely, and that's the way you do it whenever it doesn't grip nicely. You have to get it just where it's fat enough where it goes in under tension, and then you can make it grip right. The next thing that we're going to address is what do you do whenever your internal lock falls out of your pole, or you need to replace your internal lock because the rubber's hard or the mechanism no longer works. Well, this one happened to just fall out. I guess the glue deteriorates over a 3-year period. So we're going to put that in there. And again, we're just going to use good old cyanoacrylate super glue. I'm going to put my paper towel down so I don't make too big of a mess here. And we're going to go to town. All right. And first I'm going to put a little on the interior of this pole. And then I'll put a little bit on the internal lock itself. There we go. And then we'll just push it in here. See if we can get it to fit well. We'll hold it about 15 seconds. That should be good. And wipe off the excess. Cap the tube so it doesn't dry out. And then wipe off the excess from the pole. And there we go. You have the internal lock replaced, and in 15 seconds it should be dry. And that's how you do that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to try to replace the handle. As I've mentioned, the little cork thing fell out, the cork plug fell out, and they sent me a whole new handle, and I could just take this cork plug out and put it in there. That would be easy enough to do. But these are kind of worn and old and dirty. And this is so bright, shiny, and new that I'm going to go ahead and replace the whole thing. And in my specialty, they also have the little strings that you attach so that you can put a leash on it to go around your wrist, if you like, made out of some small twine or something like that. So anyway, I may regret this, but I'm going to go ahead and try to take them off. It would be so easy, just put a little super glue and put that plug back in, and I'm tempted to do that. In my world, they say the enemy of good is better, but I'm going to forge ahead and try to make it. We're back from the garage, and I went ahead and sanded off all the residue from the old handle, and that came off nicely. Now we're going to go ahead and take the second handle off, and we'll just get the dragonfly and start cutting. This one doesn't want to give up, but I will not be defeated by a trekking pole handle. Just got to peel it off a little bit. Here we go. And our trekking pole handle is off. And the leash for the trip goes off. Looks like they have some sort of double-sided tape that they used initially. So I'm going to go out to the garage and clean this handle up, and I'll be right back. Well, on the first handle, I was practicing putting it on. I was going to put it on and then take it off, and I went ahead and put it on without any glue on, and I couldn't really take it off very easily, so I figured, hey, it must be working pretty well, and then I put the cap on there too, so hey, I'm going to leave good enough alone. If it comes off, then I'll glue it on, but it's really on there firmly. I can't move it off, so I'm just going to let well enough alone. As an afterthought, I contacted Gossamergear, and they wrote back and said that their adhesive of choice is Gorilla Glue. What they recommend is putting a little dab of Gorilla Glue on the inside of the handle before you push it onto the carbon fiber pole. So there you go. That's the way to do it right. Not the way I do it, but put a little Gorilla Glue on. One thing that I know that doesn't work is putting super glue on, because you'll never get it to the end of the pole unless you put it at the very tip of the handle at the top. Well, thanks Jonathan, because he graciously sent me out another handle for free from Austin, and shout out to you, Jonathan. Well, here's what we've learned how to do today. Firstly, we learned how to change the tips on the Gossamergear poles. You'll have to do that about every 700 or 800 miles once the hard tungsten tip wears out. And then we learned how to fix an internal lock when it doesn't grab or grip the inside. We learned how to replace the internal lock, and we learned how to replace the handles on the Gossamergear LT4 Trekking Poles. Well, I just can't recommend enough the LT4 poles. I've used them, as I said, through the entire through hike of the Appalachian Trail and around a total of 3,000 miles, and they're still great. They have a few scuffs on the side of them, but outside of replacing the tips, they're really done great. I replaced the handles, but I really didn't need to. They're a little discolored, but they work just great. Gossamergear just graciously sent me out some other ones. So if you need a telescoping pole, you need to collapse it and expand it. Maybe you use your poles to set your tent. I would recommend the LT4s. They only weigh 4.1 ounces. If you don't need to collapse your poles, I would recommend you look at the LT3s. They're a fixed pole, and you don't have to mess with the internal locks, and they only weigh 2.7 ounces. I don't know of any functioning poles lighter than that. So, well, that's the video for today. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you like it, give a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. So this is House of Wisdom, and we'll see you on the next House of Wisdom video.